Recently, Caedrel brought up some controversial takes on LS on his Twitch stream, and these clips made me think about more on the League of Legends analyst community as a whole, and some of the other problems and importance that certain people play. So I'm gonna just play these Caedrel clips for you guys real quick, and you can just make your own opinion of them, so you know what he exactly said, so you know I'm not clipping him out of context. And to run more of them, I'll just put a link down to his Twitch stream.
The thing I hate about this Renekton argument is there's so much evidence by every single pro player in the world that argues that this champ has been strong for the last 2 years. Right? So there's not really anything you can say into it. Even if I'm not the one arguing against it or defending the argument, there's nothing to defend here. It's obvious. It's absolutely obvious. Okay, Crepo, good one. Good one. I don't know. I feel like lots of LS's takes are a bit controversial. No, I'm not belittling LS here or attacking him at all, but I feel like he makes so many controversial claims that 99% of them are wrong, but then one of them is right, and then he overhypes the fact that he's right. So, for example, I don't know, the Moonstaff combo. Yes, I credit him for spotting that. Great. But he said a lot of crazy other things that make no sense, like Proto Belt Nidalee, Kai'Sa's useless, Nara's a shit champ, Renekton's trash, Lee Sin was broken when FPX won Worlds, but Lee Sin's a trash champ. And even Tian was first rotating Lee Sin because of how broken it was. Like, I feel like a lot of the takes that he makes are just incorrect, but when one of them's right, it's kind of like overinflated to the point where it's like, look, I told you guys. Okay. I don't know. That's my opinion.
So before we go any further, I need to qualify this with that I have not watched enough League of Legends, and I've not played enough League of Legends to have true analytical opinions on Renekton and Lee Sin, so I'm not going to really talk about them in like a macro sense of League of Legends, but I am going to talk about Caedrel specifically's line of thinking that he uses and rationalizes certain arguments that he presents, and why they're kind of problematic in general. So here I am in the practice tool to test the damage outputs of both a Proto Belt Nidalee and a Night Harvester Nidalee. I gave them at level 9, both of them have Sork Boots, the same rune page, and as you can see what ends up happening, Proto ability does actually slightly more damage than Night Harvester Nidalee. Now this isn't like an open and shut case of Proto Belt Nidalee being better than Night Harvester Nidalee, but at least you can see that there's an argument to be had there. So with Renekton, there's a few things to note. He had a really good win rate in both LCK and LPL, with a 52% on a massive pick rate in LPL and a 56% in a pretty decent pick rate in LCK. But the last thing is also at Worlds, he had a horrendous 36% win rate, with the world champion never picking it once and never losing to it once. Now, of course, though, they did ban it in most of their, they banned it 9 out of their, I think, 15 games that they played. And they only ever played against it, like, I think 2 times, and in which both of them they won. Now, I don't say this to just say that Renekton is a good champion or that he's a bad champion, but I want to just be able to bring light to that people can understand that it isn't just a simplistic argument of Renekton good because Renekton good. When you look at what Caedrel says, he pretty much is just appealing to, I guess, common sense or appeal to somewhat authority with the Renekton angle. Because all he just lists out with all the 3 points is just he's wrong because he's wrong. Like, look at what LS thinks. He thinks Proto Belt can be good on Nidalee without actually saying or asking any questions of why would one be better. Why is Night Harvester better than Proto Belt? You have to ask that question. Or asking why is Renekton a good champion? What does he bring that other champions don't? Or why Nara's a good champion? Or why is Lee Sin a good champion? He doesn't say any of them. He just says, look, this guy thinks this. He is wrong because he's wrong. The one thing you gotta bring up when you talk about LS is he's extremely logical in the sense that every single thing he talks about, he justifies with a premise. He always comes in with rationale for why he believes what he believes. He doesn't ever say something without anything to say behind it. If you ever ask LS, hey, why is this good? He's going to come with points behind for why it's actually good. So when you talk about LS and what he says, you have to be able to look at what he says and actually come out at an angle, not he's wrong because pro players or certain other things. So you have to come out at an angle for why it's actually good. You have to justify the rationale that you use for why Lee Sin's a good pick, besides because Tian's really good on Lee Sin. He picked it a bunch. There you go. The problem with this line of thinking is it's very reductive. It limits people's ability to think innovatively and challenge the norm whenever you justify that he's an idiot by saying because it's good because it's the norm that it's good. Renekton's good because it's good. So, of course, Ellis isn't going to be right on everything. No analyst is ever going to be right on 100% of the time, every single take he has. But the way he comes up with things and the way he argues for things and comes up with premises, the way he pieces the game is definitely the correct line of thinking that people should be thinking about the game. People shouldn't be thinking and rationalizing because something is good, because pro players pick it, because something is good because of this. They need to look at it for themselves and be able to rationalize and articulate, well, why are we picking it? Is there a matchup? Is it something else that pertains to the game, to progress the game itself, and not to just look at what we previously has done. So LS doesn't view the game in the same, like a purist game theory sense, in the same way you'd view like a Go bot, like for the Chinese game Go, where it beats pretty much every single player 100% of the time in the world. So because it's not obtainable by people, he normally views it in what should be attainable by people, and he normally makes the comparison of Damwon v Damwon, who arguably Damwon is the best team in the world, so it should be feasible that normal people can obtain this level. This is the framework that Ellis views the game by, and this is how he creates all of his premises from this framework that he uses to articulate all of his points. So because of this, all the arguments he makes are valid because they're formulated from these premises that he's already built up, and now in order to combat his arguments, you need to argue with the premises in order to be actually logically consistent. So you can't just simply say we have a ton of evidence for why Renekton is a great champion. You have to look at what he actually says for why Renekton isn't a good champion and argue for why Renekton isn't a good champion against his premises. That's the way you would argue with them, not that Renekton, because demonstrable evidence, no evidence inserted. There you go. When it comes to subject matter like League of Legends, the sheer depth of the game itself lends itself to basically a bunch of analysts, and none of them will be able to be spot on, of course, 100% of the time because of how deep the game League of Legends truly is. That's one of the beauties of it. But at the end of the day, the way you should be trying to take down these arguments are by creating premises for why certain things are good, and then being able to argue with other people for why these things are good. Pro players should be doing this. Everyone should be doing this. This is just common logic. This, of course, means testing things in scrims, practicing matchups, yada yada. Those pragmatic things, of course, but I'm talking from a pure logic sense. This is how you should argue with things. This last point of the video is going to be dedicated to this last clip that Caedrel has, which is the clip that actually got spread around the most. And it has to be one of the most disrespectful clips I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, he's a broken clock. Well, I don't want to say he's a broken clock because I like LS. I think he's a nice guy. He's a great person. He's an awesome... I think LS is a really good entertainer. I think he's a really good entertainer. And I actually think that he makes really good content. The only problem that I have is a lot of his takes are just too controversial to make any sense.
So now, coming from LS's perspective, after watching this clip, you're an analyst who's dedicated basically his life to the analytical part of League of Legends. And then you have Caedrel pretty much say, one, you're an idiot because all your analytical points are wrong. Like, look at these things. He's only right one out of every 100 times. And then afterwards belittles him with saying, well, I like LS, you know? He's a content creator. He's a funny guy. But his analytical stuff is just straight garbage. So then he calls him a really good entertainer and says all of his points are too controversial to make any sense. Like, that doesn't even rationally compute. Like, how the fuck can something be too controversial to make sense? The worst part about this is Caedrel is an analyst too. Like, he should understand how disrespectful it is to just say he's terrible, all of his analytical work's garbage, but he's an entertainer. Like, he should understand as an analyst how disrespectful that should be. It's so demeaning and arrogant that it's so, I don't know, it's so blatantly disrespectful that for me, it's just hard to either see that either one, he's just fucking dense and has no idea how he comes across, or two, he's really malicious and he's just doing it intentionally. Either way, that's all I have to say. Sorry that the content's kind of really shitty. I'm not very good at making videos, but I felt like I needed to say this just because there's a lot of people that disrespect LS and don't understand kind of what he does or how he rationalizes things. And I think that's important to be able to understand at least the framework that he's thinking of it and not just disrespect him like Caedrel does. Jesus.